Hi, Margie. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Good. I am absolutely loving your new book, Make Your Mark. What inspired you to write this one?
This one, it's different than all of my others because it is far more of a guidebook. And as I think I wrote in the introduction, this book is one to be read with a pen in your hand.
Yes.
Last few years, I started running weekend programs, Live Brave Weekends and Live Brave Days, and like really kind of deep dive programs to help people get real about what they most want in their life and to reset their compass and make their how do they want to make their mark in the world. And a lot of people can't, some people flew from America to Australia for my first weekend, but not everyone can make it to a physical place. So for those people who find themselves wanting to make a change, or they're really wanting to go out after a goal they've been putting off, I really wanted to give them a step-by-step guide that if sit down and do the work, do the work on yourself, invest in yourself, because, I don't have all the answers to other people's big questions, but I really believe that each of us have the answers inside us that so often, though, in the busyness, we're looking around everywhere else for someone to give us the answers, tell us what I should do.
Yeah.
And actually, if you stop and reflect and get really present, often, you'll discover you'll know what that answer is.
Well, and that's one of the very messages that you talk about, right? Is to get off of autopilot. That's a common theme throughout all of your books that I've taken away, at least. And you're helping people with the tools about how to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's really interesting. I've talked about that for a long time, how easy it is to be on autopilot, sort of just going through the motions. And numerous times I've written about that concept of live life by design, not by default, because as human beings, we are just innately wired to move away from things that are a hassle, that are uncertain, that are uncomfortable, that are hard work, where we could fail. And so by default, our default is always to take the easier path, to take the familiar path, to stick with the status quo, because at least we know it. You know that old saying, better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
And yet, when we take that path of least resistance, that easier path, we stick with what's comfortable, people often end up in a place that they're pretty unhappy and uncomfortable. And there was a recent study done in the UK of 3,000 people. And the fascinating, I really just reinforced, and I guess it cemented my own belief in this, that 96% of the respondents reported feeling like most days they are on autopilot.
Yeah.
And they make decisions, they don't even think about it. And they say yes to things that they don't even really want to do. And they talk to people, but they're not really present, and they actually can't even remember what was said. And so I think it's so important for us to just take a little time out sometimes and go, okay, what do I really, truly want? And are the actions I'm taking and where I'm spending my time and who I'm spending it with taking me to a place I'm going to really want to be? Am I inspired by that, or am I just going through those motions?
Well, and you bring up a really important concept in all of this, which is around we try to resist things that bother us, including failure. And I'm working on my third book, and I'm interviewing amazing Canadians, Everest climbers and Olympians, and people who have recovered from very, very traumatic things, and there are successes in their life in so many ways. And the number one thing through every single interview, the only theme that came out in such vivid technicolor was you need to fail. If you're not failing, you're not living big enough. And if you don't fail, how are you really going to learn? How does that relate to you, what you talk about, right?
I mean, amen, 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 and amen.
Yeah.
But the truth is it's easier said than done. And I know for me, I talk about this, right? But I don't like to fail. I don't like to fall short. I don't like to look back and go, gee, I screwed that up. And yet we've got to give ourselves permission to do that. And, for instance, I, 3 or 4 years ago, decided, I've always wanted to, how many people say, oh, I'd like to be Oprah? Well, I always I'd love to be Oprah. I'd like, not to be Oprah, but I would love to sit down with people and to inspire people with other people's insights and hard-won wisdom, and to have that platform. And so I decided I can't wait for that. I was living in Australia at the time. I'm just going to go out and do my own interviews and do this thing online. So I started Raw Courage TV. And I connected with people, some really cool people, and I sat down and I did interviews. And, you know, I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of marketing and online. I mean, it's this whole world of knowledge that's beyond what I actually knew.
And it's different every day. Yeah.
And, you know, how do you market? How do you get lots of views on YouTube? Or how do you do this? How do you do that? So I created it. And, of course, I didn't know how to really market it or monetize it. And it's still there. You can go to Raw Courage TV and you can see a host of interviews that I did. And I think they're fantastic and I'm really proud of it. And I'm so glad that I did that. But has that been like some incredibly successful venture that's, you know, landed me, you know, where Oprah's really feeling nervous? No, it's not. And I look back and I think if I was going to measure that by, you know, how many people have seen it and watched it or how much money, I mean, I haven't made any money. It's only cost me money. I would say it's a failure. And yet I've learned so much and connected with so many people. And I think I share that story because, frankly, in a sense, I've struggled with how I haven't been successful with it in some way. It's not that it's not dead and buried. It's still there, and I'll continue to do interviews in the years to come. But I share that because if we wait until we know everything, if we wait until we know 100% what we're doing, that we cannot fail, and that we've got the biggest backer in the world and all the experience, and we know every step of the way, we don't do things. And I meet so many people who don't do things because they don't know quite what they're doing. And I actually spoke at Google's headquarters in Asia Pacific last night, and they've got a venture called Women at Google. And you know, something, yes, it's great. I mean, it's fantastic. Google are a big thinking and forward thinking organisation, as we know. And you know, I love to say to women, you know, just give yourself permission to do things imperfectly. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Give yourself permission to make the odd wrong turn, because it's when we make the wrong turns that we often realise what the right turn is. But we wouldn't even know that if we didn't make kind of wrong turn. And I think that's where so many possibilities open up, so many opportunities when we just dare to put ourselves out there and to fall short. And it doesn't mean flat on our face and it's complete disaster, but it means that we didn't achieve the great big goal we might have set out to, or the big result. And I think as women we doubt ourselves so much, and
we have evidence to prove it. Absolutely, lots of data out there, especially in tech, you know, to your point around Google.
So much data out there that women struggle more with self-doubt, and we also struggle more with being kind to ourselves. So I mean, Kirsten Neff has done a lot of work on self-compassion. And, you know, women are harder on ourselves. When we make a mistake, we beat up on ourselves. We're like, oh, idiot, you forgot to do that. Even last night, actually, I got off the stage and I was like, oh, I should have shared this and I didn't share that, and I should have. And I had so many things. I was like, oh, I could have done that better. I could have done that better. And my husband was there last night, which almost never happens. And he's like, honey, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Like, he was, what's with the beating yourself? I'm like, I know. So I often have to really practice, just like, I did a good job. Was it a perfect job? No. But that's why people relate to you, though, because you are very open. You're willing to share that you're on this journey too. And that's human. And frankly, you know, we can read about lots of books of amazing people that we admire, whether they're still alive or they've passed. We can read about these companies that we put them on a pedestal, and yet does it really have a heart connection? And that's one of the things that I think that's really unique about you. And I know you've recently had a massive move. So talk about living what you preach around. You've got to have courage. You got to make things happen. How much time do you have?
Well, you know, only the 16 hours. Yeah.
Like totally was not expecting it. But so, I've supported my husband. My husband is a huge cheerleader for me, but I have moved around the world with 4 children, having them along the way and raising them now in multiple continents. And earlier, 6-7 months ago, he said, my work, they want me to be based in Singapore. And I was like, well, that wasn't the plan.
Completely different continent, different language. Yeah. We were thinking we were going to end up back in the US, and suddenly I'm living in Singapore. I actually,
yesterday I realized it's 4 months ago yesterday that I landed here. And honestly, I've had to really walk my talk, and I failed many days, as my husband will tell you.
They're always the most unpainfully honest ones, yes. Yeah.
Because it's been hard. I was like, this isn't where I thought, and there was so much vested in a path that I was thinking we would go on as a family and individually. And so, literally using the power of language, it's like, we can get really angry, but I kind of just kept saying, well, plot twist. Okay, this is an interesting plot twist in the storybook of this.
Oh, I like that.
And I use that phrase because life is full of plot twists, and we often rail against them. It's like we think life's supposed to be a straight line. This is me, this is my plans, and this is how it's supposed to go. And it doesn't go that way. It never goes that way. It will never go that way. And so when we accept that life is actually full of curveballs and full of twists and full of turns and these plot twists, and sometimes we insert a whole other chapter in, and for me right now it's a chapter living in Asia that I wasn't reckoning on and planning for, and certainly wasn't prepared for. But heck, okay, so how do I make the most of being here? And it was great last night to be invited to Google, because I've been out literally, I've had to go out and do a lot of networking and meet a lot of people, and I'm here, this is who I am, this is what I do, and slowly over time, someone says, oh, can you come in and do this? So it was exciting to have that invitation last night. But I think for all of us, it can be really hard when our plans don't go the way we want them to.
And we talk about in the speaking industry, I don't know if you have the same terminology that you use on your side of the pond, but we often talk about your message. And so, it's not my term, it's a whole bunch of other people, they use that. And, I'm sure you found, I know the people who come up to me after a speaking engagement, it's actually the mess that we share. And not that it was the happy ever ending or a happy ever after, but the fact that you're willing to share it. Because even in smaller, safer groups, such as a close work team or in our own families, often we are not willing to share our mess or get into the mess. We have to play nice. We have to be nice people, right?
But here's what I know. I know that we connect most deeply with people through our vulnerability and through our weaknesses and through our faults and through our failings and through our mess ups and screw ups. And then we do going, oh my God, I've succeeded at this and I've succeeded at that and I've succeeded at the other. Now, I really think it's really important to share and to celebrate the things when we do land a win, when something is great. And I like to do that. And actually, we know from positive psychology, it's important to celebrate small wins because they build up our resilience and capacity for the times we get the hits. It's like, no, I've been celebrating even the little wins. But it's so important to just be real and go, no, this is hard. And I've met a lot of people in the last few months going, I hope your move to Singapore has been great. I hope it's been smooth. And I'm like, actually, it's been hard.
Yeah.
It's been really hard. And am I doing okay? Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm good. I'm great. But it has been difficult. And as I shared with you before we started this, moving to teenagers who frankly did not want to move. And I have two other teenagers now, on another continent, and parenting across that. My son started college in August, and I have yet to see him, to go there. It's been, I've been here, I need to be focused in, there's only so much of me to go around. And so just parenting kids as a global parent now, which I've been for a little while, but so, I've had my moments where I've sort of railed and ranted and not been very gracious. And it was funny, I have a word every year that's my word for the year. And last year I said my word for 2017 was going to be grace. But I wanted to really be gracious and to radiate God's grace and the grace that I believe we all have. And I have slipped up from being gracious so many times that it's almost ironic that I chose that word. And if anything, it's just been incredibly humbling.
So is that the lesson? Like, why did you need to pick the word grace and it be such a challenging year to have that sense of grace? What was the lesson? Was it humility? Was it compassion? What was the lesson?
What the lesson? Well, there's certainly been humility, and if anything, it's just helped me to those moments of going, I'm upset, or I'm resentful, or I'm sad, or I'm wallowing, or I've got a bit of self-pity going on. And I'm that negativity bias we have to focus on what's missing, to focus on where we're inadequate, or where our partner is inadequate, or what's missing, what's wrong. To kind of go, if I was being gracious right now, if I was trusting in a bigger plan for my life, and I have a strong faith that we're all here and life happens for us, not to us, what would I do differently right now? Where would I just accept this is where I've landed, and how can I make the most of that? And who do I want to be in this moment when I wouldn't have chosen this, but it's how things are. And I think for all of us, every day of our lives, we have that. Every day there's something that won't be the way we want it to be. And, in writing Make Your Mark, which came out in April, the core message of that book is we are all here to make our own mark in the world. And while my sights were set on this is how I'm going to be making it in the next year or two, suddenly it's like, I'm in another part of the world than that. What's the mark I'm here to make with this new circumstance I find myself in? And I would say that to anyone watching right now. It's likely there'll be circumstances of your life that are not as you would ideally have liked them to be. But what if, just sit with the possibility, what if the mark that you are here to make in the world and on people, what if actually that's because of those circumstances that aren't as you'd like them to be? What if the good of those circumstances is for you to learn and to grow and to impact the world in a way that's different than what you had imagined? And I think, as I've shared with you, I think previously, I've had 5 miscarriages, and I've had, tragedy in my family, and I've had lots of struggles. And I know that for me, it's those struggles, it's those crosses you have to bear sometimes that's where the gold is. That's where our, the impact we can make on others and our own growth really comes from. Not from when everything goes to plan and we land everything and it's all good and people say, aren't you amazing? It's from like, this is hard. I wasn't amazing.
When you share that in addition to that connection, as you're saying, people really connect on the vulnerability. People realize that they have a story about you. I'm very public about the fact that I had 2 very serious postpartum depressions after I had my kids. And people say, really, I could never imagine that you were ever depressed. Well, it doesn't pick negative people. It's a chemical imbalance, and that we all are at risk of having a mental illness at some point in our lives, and we can still recover from it. So, it's interesting when you share these vulnerable parts of yourself that you start to hear back the mirror of how people define you and they see you.
Yeah, and I feel very strongly about. I do not want to be put on a pedestal, because when you put on a pedestal, you're going to work your ass not to fall off, or you're just going to. Don't put me on the pedestal, and I don't think we should put anyone on a pedestal. And I think we have a culture that we want to put people on pedestals. Yes, whether it's just there's people out there that we want to put them up there and go, oh my God, but they've got it all together. And none of us have it all together, not all the time. So we might have moments of having it together. I have my moments where I'm like, I've got it together kind of for about 1 minute. But none of us have it together all of the time. And I think just relating to people as people, we're all people. And we've all got our own lessons to learn. And, we've all got different lessons to learn. And I think just accepting that, our own fallibility. One of my Live Brave weekends, I had this awesome woman there, Michelle Redfern, and she talks a lot about being flawsome. And I've kind of stolen the term from her, but I'll give her attribution. I don't know if she took it from someone else, but this idea that we are all awesome, but we're all flawsome. We're all flawed too. We're just flawsome. And
totally cool word. Love it.
Yeah, I love that. It's just you are flawsome and I'm flawsome, but let's just be real. The FL comes first.
Yeah. And that, what a wonderful message for our teenage girls to hear that, right? That because they grew up in a world that's no different than how we grew up, thinking that they have to look perfect, act perfect, be great in school and great academically, and great, sports and have lots of friends. And if they don't have all of those things, then they're nothing. It's sort of extreme.
And because they live on their phones, they live on, whether it's Snapchat or Insta, whatever it is. And, I see these, because I have an 18-year-old daughter and 4 teenagers. So, I mean, their world is, so much of it happens on their device.
Mm-hmm.
They don't post, sometimes they post a pretty ugly selfie. Yeah, I get it. Like, it's like the whole idea of Snapchat. I'm like, my daughter Maddie's like, Mum, that's the whole idea that you just do like.
I'm being ironic. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay. Because I wouldn't post that. But yeah, like when they don't feel they fit to this very narrowly defined idea of what it is to be cool, and their sense of self-worth and significance, so they tie it so strongly to how many people have liked their post, how many followers they have, the number of comments, or whatever it is. I don't know. The number of their streaks, on how many streaks they have on Snapchat. I mean, I'm showing. I don't even know how to articulate it properly. But, and I say to my kids all the time, no number of followers or likes or retweets or whatever it is that doesn't mean anything on who you are and your worth in the world. And it can be such a false measure, and be so careful how you do, just not to let what other people think of you, follow you, define you.
Yeah.
Be your own person. We need more people to be their own person in the world, and not who they think they're supposed to be. And for young women, wow, in terms of body image, this idea of what your body, it's like whether big butts are in or, whatever it is, it's like, oh, she's got, and she can eat anything she wants, and she's so skinny and she never gets fat. And, I just think as parents, we have to continually reinforce the message of having them that self-efficacy and just self-definition. And but we're working hard against all the media and everything that's coming at them. So we have to work really hard, and knowing that's not a one-off thing. That takes years.
Takes years.
I'm in my 40s, and I meet lots of people who are completely caught up in what other people think of them, and other people's opinions matter so much more than their own opinion. And I have people come up to me, as I'm sure you do, and say, what should I do? And they hand me authority to tell them what to do, like sometimes very big life decisions. And I'm like, I don't know you that well. This is a decision you have to make. And don't hand over authority to what other people think. And I wrote about that in Make Your Mark, and I wrote about that in Brave, that we've got to be careful not to give too much power to what other people think, or even what we think they think.
And one of the things that that folks who asked me around a big career transition, because we were both examples of people who've made very significant career transitions, and not the safe ones, that the brave ones. And I'll say, you know what? Every time I doubted myself, I had to get a coach, because coaches will hold the faith for you when you don't feel it yourself, but they're also not going to tell you what to do. Good coaches, people who are really well trained, have good ethics. They know their job is not to be your consultant. They're there to help you find your own answers. And honestly, as an entrepreneur, I don't know how I would have gotten where I am this quickly if it weren't for having coaches in a range of aspects of my life to continue to show up. Right? Have you found the same thing, that even though you're a coach yourself, you still need other people to have that role for you?
Oh, yeah. And, they're not always necessarily in the form of a paid coach.
Yeah.
People whose opinions I value highly and who won't buy into my story.
Yeah.
Buy into my story, particularly if I'm having a pity party, or getting caught in it's, their fault or anything like that. I want people to totally challenge my story. Go, wow, well, isn't this fantastic? Wonder what you can create from it. So I think having those people and I think we need a committee. And I wrote about that in Make Your Mark. When I wrote it, I wrote about building a tribe, because mastery of life is not a solo endeavor. And we shape our tribe, and our tribe shapes us. And it's not like, oh yes, I have 3 people. I mean, we may have, I have my husband, and I have different girlfriends, and then I have professional people who who I just know, different people I can call on just as a sounding block for different things. So some people, their role in your life is to cheer you on and go, yes, you can do it, you've got this. And others is to go, hey, I think you need to think a bit bigger. There's different people. I mean, I think we need this whole committee of people around us, and to be really intentional in who you bring into your life, the energy you bring in, as well as the energy you put out. We have to take responsibility of that energy we put out. But I see a lot of people who are held back because of the people that they're spending a lot of time with.
Yeah.
And the way that other people see the world, it's impossible not to have it affect us. If you're with someone who's very cynical all the time, who's a very committed pessimist, who is being
committed pessimist, I love that.
Loves to find fault with everything, who's always worried about what could go wrong, that's going to keep you from putting yourself out there. That's going to keep you from going, yes, I'm going to try this. So,
and keep you from being vulnerable and honest with them when things aren't necessarily going so well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a whole chapter in Make Your Mark on that, about creating a tribe of people around you who will really embolden you, challenge you, who will help pick you back up when you've had your fall and say, it's okay, be kind to yourself. I've had a few people say that to me in the last couple of months, like, be kind to yourself. It's been hard. It's been a big few months. I'm like, thank you, because I can be hard on myself. And so just being so intentional about those people and investing in building those relationships. Sometimes we need to kind of expand it, some of the people that we've been spending a lot of time with may no longer be serving us on the next stage of our journey.
So that is so very true, that as you get bigger and you grow into your bigger possibility, you do have to look around you and say, who's on the journey with me, who was part of a previous journey, who wishes to to come along with me, who's not even in my journey, that's going to help me elevate myself to where I wish to be. And therefore I'm going to create a new possibility. I may not even know that person, but who could I, reach out to? So big believer, and I totally agree with you. You got to look backwards, forwards, sideways, so that you don't have blind spots.
And sometimes, and I mean, I've had to do a lot of this, obviously landing in a brand new country, a new part of the world, but sometimes that requires getting uncomfortable, right? I've walked into so many events in the last couple of months where I didn't know a soul. I've just walked in, I've joined, like say, the American Chamber of Commerce, or I've, some group, and I've just gone off to some evening or an event they've got on my own, and had to just walk up to people and say hi, and you don't always meet the people you go, oh my God, you're someone I want to, be friends with. But we've got to be willing to put ourselves out there and get uncomfortable. And sometimes you might identify, oh, that's someone I really want to get to know better. And okay, so I need to risk rejection. They seem like, well, they're pretty important, or they're why would they want to hang out with me? I need to at least give it a possibility. And you never know how people can react. And I think sometimes we can make ourselves intimidated by telling ourselves a story of this person's so important. I mean, look at the job they have, the books they've written, or the money they earn, or they've been on the front cover of X magazine, and you don't know, they might actually love meeting you. So just because you don't tell yourself a story that keeps you from actually reaching out and building relationships with people who will help you be a bigger and better person.
Well, and how you show up is going to be different. Not just physically show up, but show up as your whole self, your best possibility when you have that mindset around this person is as deserving to meet me as I am to meet them, that we're both human.
Yeah, and I don't know if I shared with you previously, when I was invited to Nicaragua with Richard Branson a couple of years ago now, and I was invited to interview him. It was the first night, and I remember thinking, I have to really be careful of what the narrative I'm telling myself here, or I'll be really nervous. And he's a human being. I mean, he's a very successful human being.
Yeah, rather successful, yes. Yeah.
But he's a human being, and in order for me, and the feedback I got was that I did a good job, but I just connect with him at a human level. He's actually a really fun, playful guy, and we just had fun. We played, and I punched him in the arm early on, and someone's like, I can't believe you punched him in the arm. I was like, you kept teasing me about kept saying, oh, you have beautiful eyes, and I'm going to, and he was just being playful and fun. He wasn't, it was no way. It was really lovely. And I was like, oh, stop it. And I punched him. I said, stop it.
Yeah.
I've got to ask questions. And it just allowed for this lovely, playful rapport. And then, because we were at the front of a room and there was a whole lot of people that were watching. But I remember being very clear that I needed to be really winding any story I was going to create about, oh my God, I'm getting too into Richard Branson, and just human being, he's a good guy, he wants to share his insights that would be helpful to the group. I'm here to facilitate that, period.
Right. So, and standing in your power, that this is of service to the world, not just here for me in this moment. This is a much bigger purpose.
And you know, and I think women have this more than men, but we often have a, oh, why me? Or, oh, I can't believe it's me. And that imposter syndrome. Oh my God, when will they realize I don't even deserve to be here? Like, and why not you? Why not you to do something amazing and cool? Why not you to be talented and fabulous and brilliant, as, you know, to kind of paraphrase to Marianne Williamson, who was actually there on Necker Island too. Like, why not you to do something extraordinary and amazing? And I think we talk ourselves down and we keep ourselves from doing things because we've got this, oh, but who am I to do that? Who's telling you not to do that? And if it's not you, then who's going to do it? And if not now, then when? So,
yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, what is going to be your word for 2018?
Purpose.
Purpose. Well, that, just like that. Have you been thinking a lot about it, or that just came to you?
No, it's already it. No, I created that a couple of weeks ago. I thought about that, and I'm starting a Ph.D. actually in January, and I I could explain why.
Well, congratulations! That actually should have been the first thing that comes out of my mouth.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about deep learning, and I'm excited to do this because I haven't done formal learning for a long time, and I know I want to accomplish a lot, and I also know that for me to accomplish what I'm capable of accomplishing and making my mark, I've got my book in front of me here, I've got my hand on it, making my mark, I have to be very purpose-driven and intentional, highly, highly intentional in how I use the minutes of my day, and sometimes that means saying no to things that I'd like to do. And just being very deliberate and mindful, intentional, all those words. And I know I have the hours in the day to do a PhD in the next few years. I want to write another book. I want to run more of my programs around the world, as well as continuing to do all the speaking I am. And there's the time in the day. I just have to be very purposeful in how I spend it. And so that's probably why it's like, okay, Margie, if you were being as purposeful as possible and going, what's the highest value use of my time? What would you be doing? And I'm hoping that I'll do better at that next year than I did with Grace this year.
Well, and if for whatever reason it doesn't quite land, there will be a lesson to that too. But I have absolute faith that you will. And you know, Margie, I just want to say thank you so much for being part of this conversation and the gift that this will have for other people who are watching it. I feel even more honored that I fit into your purpose, and that we, you know, all the people watching this fit into your purpose too, because I know that your time is precious and your wisdom is.
You know what? It takes a village. And we're all supporting each other, right? You have a mission. I have a mission. And we can live our mission better when we are supporting each other and living theirs. And I believe that incredibly strongly. And so thank you. And I'm delighted to connect with all the wonderful women and men, who knows, who watches this, who are watching this. And I hopefully some of my words have hit heart and will just inspire them to step into their own power.
Awesome. And Margie, can you share with folks your websites?
Sure. So it is my name, Margie Warrell, which I know to you pronounce it Margie, but it's Margie with a hard G. And I probably would, besides Make Your Mark, which is my new book, I created also an 8-week coaching program called Your Life Compass course. And the Life Compass course is really about taking where are you now? Where do you want to go? And what are the steps you need to take to move from being stuck and unsure to being really on fire and on purpose? And so please check that out. You can find links on the website. And I just encourage people to be purposeful too, because we all have a purpose. And we know from research, we are at our best, we are happiest, we are most resilient, we are most brave when we are connected to a cause that's bigger than ourselves.
Awesome. Thank you, Margie. And my name is Sarah McVanel from Greatness Magnified, greatnessmagnified.com. And if I can serve in any way of your folks, then absolutely thrilled to do that. Wonderful to chat with you. Good luck in your Ph.D. I'll be excited to see the juicy things that come out of that new journey. My gosh.
I'm excited to see too. I'm just here with an open mind right now. So
awesome. All right. Thanks so much.
Take care, Sarah.